standing back a little bit. They're shrouded in the darkness somewhat, and now continuing to come up to hopefully address the media. And 24-hour News 8's Leon Hendricks is at that police line waiting for the chief to come on up.
Brian, it appears that the chief is trying to get his comments together at this point. It is seeming like this scene is turning into more of a crime scene. This is actually one of a crime scene detectives here. He's taking someone away who is apparently hiding their face for some reason or another. So that presumably someone somehow involved in this situation being taken away and covering their face. We see the chief coming up to us right now. This is Grand Rapids Police Chief Kevin Belk on his side. Captain Payne.
An update on what's happened here in the last few minutes. I am pleased to say that both of the hostages have been removed safely from the home. We do have both of them out at the command post. They're being evaluated by ambulance personnel that are here at the scene. Unfortunately, during our conversations with the suspect, who had kind of gone back and forth between being agitated and threatening to shoot the hostages, threatening to shoot himself, threatening to asking us to shoot him, asking if there were snipers, where he needed to stand, things of that nature. Then he switched to that he wanted to give himself up, and while our negotiators were talking to him, trying to give him instructions as to how he could go about turning himself in, how he could surrender, we heard a gunshot, and it turned out to be a self-inflicted gunshot wound to the head. The suspect has been determined to be dead at the scene. Obviously, our investigators will continue to investigate this matter. So at this point, again, the hostages are outside. They are safe. The suspect is dead at the scene.
Chief, you said there were 3 total hostages.
Correct, yes. Initially, we thought there were 2. When the one was released, we learned from her that there was a visitor at their home who had hidden herself, we believe, in one of the bedrooms. As time went on, her location became known to the suspect, and she ended up coming out. There was communication with her and the suspect. At times we talked to her, we knew that she was okay. But again, as I said, the suspect continually going back between being agitated and talking to our negotiators in a calm manner, trying to reason with them. But unfortunately, at the end of the night, the suspect chose to put the gun to his head and fired one shot, taking his own life.
Is there any immediate sign of physical harm to the hostages?
There is not, no. But we're again having obviously a very traumatic event for them. We're having medical personnel look them over, certainly offering to take them to the hospital for an evaluation. But again, I also want to just thank my officers and the command staff that have been out here all night doing a tremendous job under extremely difficult circumstances. This suspect has fired at our officers many times throughout the night. Even in the home here, there was an exchange of gunfire where our officers earlier had fired as they made entry into the house. Actually, when this occurred, our officers, earlier when we heard gunshots, the officers went into the house trying to make sure that the hostages were okay, and there was an exchange. When they determined that they were safe, they ended up holding their position, but didn't remain in the home throughout the remainder of the incident. But throughout the downtown area during the chase, the suspect continually fired at them, and again, certainly the restraint, the professionalism that they showed here, the wisdom of my command staff in dealing with this situation. I tell you, I just could not be prouder in the way that they handled this situation. Obviously, extremely disappointed in the outcome. We would have much rather had the suspect surrendered peacefully, had him in custody, and let the court system deal with the consequences. But that was not the choice that he chose to make, and that's the situation we find ourselves. So.
Chief, can you put this in perspective? You've been around a long time. It was one of the most difficult days in the city's history. Would you agree with that?
Oh, there's no doubt. This is obviously a very, very difficult day, and for a lot of people. I mean, we have, 7 homicide victims that occurred today, many family members that are going to be traumatized for a long time, neighbors and others, but our whole community really put into a traumatic event with people being fearful. The neighborhood here obviously being evacuated from their homes, because of this individual's behavior. You know, it makes no sense as we try to rationalize it, try to figure out what the motives were. You know, you just cannot come up with a logical reason why someone would take 7 people's lives for seems to be just a totally senseless purpose. So, yeah, it's extremely difficult.
And Chief, considering the violence we've seen, to end up with the hostages really not hurt physically at all, what does it say to the skill of your negotiators, and how were they able to keep that from happening?
Well, again, they obviously are very professional, do a tremendous amount of training. You know, this is the day they train for. I mean, this is as difficult as it gets. And again, I think they did a marvelous job being able to keep the suspect calm through the incident, being able to get one of the hostages released. They continued to try to work on the others, but dealing with the suspect, trying to keep him focused on the issues. Again, I think they've done a marvelous job. And again, you know, you got to remember the suspect's family as well. Certainly got people that they're hurting as well. They're not responsible for his behavior, and you know, we've got to think about them at this time. But what a difficult time for our entire community.
What's next on the scene here, Chief?
Earlier today, did he talk about what he had done earlier today? 7 lives taken.
Yeah, we're very confident that he is the suspect involved in all of these. We've got strong cases. I've talked to Captain Jeff Hertel, our commander of investigations, who's given me updates on the progress of the investigation, and strong indications, strong evidence of his involvement in all 7 homicides.
So why did he do it?
Determine a motive? Yeah.
Well, I don't know. Obviously, there were some relationships with, as I said, at least one person at each location. We do believe that one of the individuals, again, it's, you know, it's been a busy day, and we do believe one of them was his daughter. One was an ex-girlfriend. The other one was an ex-girlfriend, but our understanding, it had been quite some time since there had been any relationship. So again, it does not make sense. I don't think you can make sense out of something like this.
And all indications that he acted alone at this point, is that right?
Yes, as far as we know, there were obviously other individuals at different points in the day that had communication with him. I think one individual was with him when the incident happened on Godfrey. But yes, he's acted alone. We don't believe anyone else is responsible or involved in this.
Chief, have you determined where that vehicle came from? This wasn't a vehicle we were told to be on the lookout for. Was this, where did this vehicle?
Yeah, at this time, I don't have the answer to that. I mean, obviously, I think some of our investigators obviously know that answer. That wasn't a key factor here at the incident here on Rickman, so I have not been yet updated on what the circumstances were.
Relation to mental health condition, anything that might have played a factor in this? Mental health condition, bipolar, any kind of...
I don't have that information.
What about drugs? Was he on drugs? Did he appear to be on drugs throughout the day?
That's a possibility, but I have no good information on that. Obviously, with an autopsy, toxicology reports, we'll obviously be able to give us some more information on that. So let me take one more question, and then...
Did he make threats previously? Did he make threats to his victims?
I do not have that information. I don't know.
Were there life-saving efforts attempted on him?
Yes, I should cover that. We had medical personnel staging very close to the scene, obviously for anyone, for our officers, for the hostages, for the suspect. Immediately after the scene was made safe, they were brought in immediately, and they were able to evaluate him and determine that, in fact, even through putting probes on, that he had died at the scene.
Did the victims witness this?
That I am not certain. They obviously were in a very tight, confined area, but I don't have the information whether they actually witnessed it or not. They certainly, as I said, were in a back corner of the house, so but I don't know whether they were in a separate room or not.
Was he on the phone? I mean, how did you know that this was a gunshot wound that ended it? I mean,
well, as I said, we had officers in the house. We had him on the phone. We were talking with him when the incident occurred. So, you know, we knew that it was a gunshot wound for a number of reasons. And again, we had at the moment that it occurred, as I said, he had threatened people earlier, threatened to shoot, asked officers to shoot him, but at the time that the incident occurred, he was talking about coming out, giving himself up, and then obviously chose at the last moment to fire the gun and take his own life. So I have no idea what his statements were.
One last thing about your negotiators. I mean, that's the toughest job in all this, frankly, to talk with him. I mean, can you talk about his work, their work, and what they did in the process to be able to at least get a safe resolution for the hostages? Yeah.
Well, again, the negotiators are very skillful. I mean, they've done an excellent job here, but our entire department. I mean, this is certainly very much a group effort. I mean, involved the state police, as we said. We've gotten a lot of resources there. I want to thank them. The helicopter that's been available to us all evening, other resources they provided. The Kent County Sheriff's Department provided a lot of help for us. Wyoming Police Department has offered to help us take calls for service within our city, as did the Sheriff's Department. But again, our special response team, our tactical team on scene, obviously extremely dangerous job, and again, I could not be prouder